The truth about why Dame Patricia Routledge died alone just destroyed everything we believed about her. When Dame Patricia Routledge passed away on October 3, 2025, the world mourned. But within days, her family released statements that completely changed how we understood her entire life. For decades, fans created stories about why she never married, why she never had children, why she suddenly quit the most successful show on television. The rumors suggested scandal, secret relationships, hidden illness, bitter feuds. But the reality her family confirmed after her death was far more shocking because it was exactly what she had been telling us all along. And nobody listened. Patricia Routledge was born in 1929 in Tranmere, Birkenhead, into a working-class family with no connection to the entertainment world whatsoever. Her father worked as a tailor. Her mother was a homemaker. Acting wasn't considered a real career in their community. It was seen as unstable, impractical, and frankly impossible for someone without money or connections. But from childhood, Patricia was different. She loved language. She loved stories. She loved performing. And despite having absolutely nothing going for her except raw talent and determination, she decided she would become an actress anyway. She went to Birkenhead High School and then the University of Liverpool, which was already unusual for a working-class girl in that era. While studying English, she joined student drama productions. That's where acting stopped being a hobby and became her entire focus. She learned discipline, timing, and stage presence in those small university shows. After graduation, she somehow got accepted into the prestigious Bristol Old Vic Theatre School. The competition was brutal. Most students came from wealthy families with theater connections. Patricia had neither. She survived on scholarships and worked twice as hard as everyone else just to keep up. After training, she expected work to come. It didn't. She spent years bouncing between small repertory theaters, taking any role available, earning barely enough to survive. She performed in front of tiny audiences in forgotten towns. The work was exhausting and thankless, but every single night on stage taught her something. She learned comedy. She learned drama. She learned how to command attention. She learned versatility. And slowly, very slowly, her reputation began to build. The industry she was fighting to enter was viciously male-dominated. Women were typecast constantly. If you didn't fit a very narrow definition of glamorous, you had to fight 3 times harder for serious roles. Patricia wasn't interested in being a traditional leading lady. She wanted to be a real actress who could do anything. Classical theater, comedy, musicals, drama. She refused to be limited. That stubbornness eventually got her into the Royal Shakespeare Company, one of the most respected theater institutions in the world. She proved she could handle Shakespeare. She could handle modern plays. She could switch between genres effortlessly. Then, in 1968, she won a Tony Award in New York for the musical Darling of the Day. This changed everything. She was now internationally recognized, not just a British stage actress. But even with that success, she kept pushing. She kept taking different kinds of roles. She kept refusing to settle into one category. And then the 1990s happened. Keeping up appearances made Patricia Routledge a global household name. She played Hyacinth Bucket, a social climbing snob who embarrassed herself constantly while trying to appear upper class. The character was hilarious. The show became a massive international hit. Millions of people in dozens of countries watched it. Patricia's voice, her mannerisms, her timing became instantly recognizable everywhere. She had finally achieved the kind of fame most actors dream about their entire careers. But here's what shocked everyone. She hated what that fame was doing to her. People stopped seeing Patricia Routledge, the versatile actress. They only saw Hyacinth Bucket, the character. Everywhere she went, fans expected her to perform. They wanted the voice. They wanted the catchphrases. They wanted the jokes. They forgot she had won a Tony Award. They forgot she had done Shakespeare. They forgot she had spent decades proving she could do serious drama. All of that work, all of that struggle was being erased by one sitcom character, and Patricia could feel it happening in real time. On set, she started pushing back. If a script felt too unrealistic, she said so. If a joke pushed Hyacinth too far into cartoon territory, she objected. Writers had to rewrite scenes because Patricia refused to let the character become a shallow caricature. Some people thought she was being difficult, but she didn't care about being liked. She cared about the work being good. She cared about the comedy staying grounded and believable. Then came 1995. The show was at its absolute peak. Ratings were sky high. International syndication deals were worth millions. The BBC was making a fortune. Fans were obsessed. And Patricia Routledge walked away. She just quit. No warning, no negotiation, no explanation that satisfied anyone. The media went absolutely wild. Fans were devastated and furious. Everyone assumed there had been a massive fight. Maybe she hated the producers. Maybe she was secretly ill. Maybe there was a scandal being covered up. The rumors spread like wildfire. But the truth was simpler, and somehow more shocking. Patricia left because she felt the writing was getting repetitive. She thought the show was starting to recycle ideas. And she remembered watching Ronnie Barker, another British comedy legend who always quit his successful shows at their peak. He believed it was better to leave with audiences begging for more rather than staying until people got tired of you. Patricia agreed completely. So she walked away from guaranteed fame and financial security because she valued artistic integrity more than money. That decision confused everyone. It seemed insane. Who walks away from millions of dollars and worldwide fame? But while the public obsessed over her career choices, something else was happening in her private life that almost nobody knew about. Patricia was experiencing devastating loss after devastating loss. Her father Isaac died in 1985 when she was in her mid-50s. He had been the person who believed in her impossible dream when she was just a working-class girl who wanted to act. Losing him meant losing her last connection to her childhood and the life she came from. But that wasn't even her first major loss. Her mother Catherine had died way back in 1957 when Patricia was still struggling to establish herself. She was doing small roles in small theaters, barely making ends meet. Her mother had been the one who encouraged her love of reading and language when she was young. Losing her during that vulnerable time in her career was absolutely devastating. Patricia had to keep working, keep auditioning, keep touring, all while processing grief she couldn't talk about because she had to appear professional. Then her brother Kenneth died in 1989. Kenneth had been a lawyer who became a priest. He was Patricia's advisor, her moral compass, the person she turned to for perspective and guidance. And he died right before Keeping Up Appearances exploded and made her more famous than she had ever been. She entered the most public, overwhelming phase of her entire life without the one person who could have helped her navigate it. Without him, she had to handle fame, pressure, and constant public scrutiny completely alone. These losses shaped everything about how Patricia lived. People always described her as intensely private and reserved, but it wasn't a personality trait. It was survival. She learned that grief doesn't stop the world from moving. Shows still have to go on. Work still has to be done. You still have to get on stage and perform even when your heart is shattered. So she built walls. She kept her pain private. She focused on work. She created firm boundaries between her public persona and her actual life. Even during her biggest successes, Patricia's career was never secure. Between major roles, there were slow periods where work dried up, auditions that led nowhere, uncertainty about what came next. But unlike most actors, she never used publicity to stay visible. She didn't do interviews constantly. She didn't attend industry parties. She didn't play the celebrity game at all. She valued privacy above visibility. In an industry that runs on exposure and networking, this approach hurt her. Producers didn't always know where she stood. Some people mistook her privacy for coldness or arrogance. But there was one question that followed Patricia more than any other. It had nothing to do with her career. Why did she never get married? Why did she never have children? For decades, people created elaborate theories. Maybe she had a secret tragic love affair. Maybe she was heartbroken and never recovered. Maybe there was some scandal she was hiding. The speculation never stopped. The truth her family confirmed after her death was far simpler and somehow more radical. Patricia never got married because she gave absolutely everything to her work. It wasn't a dramatic choice. It wasn't a sacrifice. It just happened. Theater demanded all her time and energy. Rehearsals, tours, performances, constant travel. By the time she looked up, she was already living a life structured entirely around acting. She later said, "I didn't make a decision not to be married and not to be a mother. Life just turned out like that because my involvement in acting was so total." But here's what people missed. She wasn't sad about it. She didn't feel like she had sacrificed anything. She didn't have regrets. She found fulfillment in her work, in performance, in the charities she supported. Her sense of purpose didn't require a partner or children. It came from doing her job excellently and on her own terms. She valued independence. She valued answering only to herself. Marriage in her era came with expectations she had zero interest in. Women were expected to step back professionally, support their husband's career, define themselves through their partner. Patricia had fought too hard to be taken seriously to accept that framework. Being single gave her complete control over her time, her decisions, her finances, her career. That freedom mattered more to her than any relationship, and she never felt defensive about it. She never tried to justify it. She simply lived the life that made sense to her and refused to apologize. That level of self-assurance was rare, especially for a woman of her generation, but it also meant she kept everyone at arm's length. She never let the public in. She never shared personal details. She maintained absolute privacy about her inner life. When Patricia died on October 3, 2025 at age 96, those old rumors exploded back to life. The biggest one was that she had lived a lonely, isolated existence because she never married and had no children. People assumed she must have died alone and forgotten. Articles suggested her final years were spent in sad solitude. The narrative seemed obvious. Famous actress chooses career over family, ends up lonely and filled with regret. It was the story everyone expected. But then, her representatives released statements that completely destroyed that narrative. Her agent announced, "We are deeply saddened to confirm the passing of Dame Patricia Routledge, who died peacefully in her sleep this morning, surrounded by love." That single sentence contradicted decades of assumptions. She wasn't alone. She wasn't abandoned. She wasn't filled with regret. She was surrounded by people who cared about her until her final moment. The truth that emerged after her death painted a completely different picture. Patricia had remained deeply involved in charity work throughout her later years, particularly with the Royal Voluntary Service. She supported causes related to community care and older people. This work kept her socially engaged and connected to others. She also maintained strong relationships within the theater community. She stayed in touch with colleagues. She attended events when possible. She followed new productions closely. People who interacted with her during her final years consistently described her as having a sharp memory, dry humor, and genuine interest in conversation. She wasn't withdrawing from the world. She was simply living more privately. She also never officially announced her retirement. She just quietly stopped taking television roles. After her death, her family confirmed it was entirely her choice. She reached a point where she no longer wanted the demands of television fame. The schedules, the publicity, the repetition. She had done it all and felt no need to keep proving herself. But retirement from television didn't mean retirement from passion. According to her agent, even at 96 years old, Patricia's love for theater and live performance never faded. She continued attending plays and staying connected to the theatrical world she had always loved. She stepped away from the spotlight, not from the craft itself. The final question that haunted her legacy was about regret. Did she regret leaving Keeping Up Appearances at its peak? Did she regret never marrying? Did she regret the choices that made her life so different from everyone else's? The answer her own words provided was devastatingly clear. No, she regretted nothing. When asked about ending the show, she said, "I brought it to an end, which the BBC didn't care for very much. I thought the writer was beginning to recycle old ideas." Remembering Ronnie Barker, he always stopped when he was at the height of something. He always left with people saying, "Aren't you doing any more?" rather than people saying, "Is that still on?" That's the place to be. I had other adventures to explore. I'm an actress, and I wanted to take on the stories of other people. She believed comedy worked best when it stayed sharp. She didn't want Hyacinth to become stale. She wanted space to do other kinds of work. And she wasn't willing to sacrifice her artistic integrity for money or continued fame. That decision seemed crazy to outsiders, but to Patricia, it made perfect sense. She had spent her entire life building a career based on versatility and excellence. She wasn't going to throw that away just to keep playing one character forever. Here's what shocked everyone most after her death. The rumors about loneliness, isolation, regret, bitterness, they were all completely wrong. Patricia Routledge lived exactly the life she wanted. She chose privacy over exposure. She chose independence over traditional family structure. She chose artistic integrity over financial security. She chose to leave at the peak rather than fade away slowly. Every single choice she made was deliberate. And she never second-guessed any of them. She wasn't a tragic figure who sacrificed personal happiness for career success. She was a woman who defined happiness on her own terms and lived accordingly without apology. The real shock wasn't that she died alone. She didn't. The real shock was that she lived her entire life exactly as she intended, ignored everyone's expectations, and died completely at peace with every choice she had made. In a world that constantly told women they needed marriage and children to be fulfilled, Patricia proved that was a lie. In an industry that told actors to chase fame at any cost, she proved that artistic integrity mattered more. In a culture that valued exposure over privacy, she proved you could be successful while keeping your personal life completely separate. She wasn't a cautionary tale. She was proof that living on your own terms is possible if you're brave enough to ignore what everyone else thinks you should do. Let us know what you think about her incredible life in the comments below.